to the Life Career Roadmap. And today I have my special guest, Jeremy Chetty. So, Jeremy, thank you very much for coming to the channel and sharing your life career with us.
Seba, thanks very much for inviting me, and thank you for doing what you do for our immigrant migrant community, but more importantly, what you do for the wider community, which helps people educate and I guess inform them on the journey that people like ourselves have been on, and the struggles that has been the people that we've been riding on shoulders of. That got us to this point. So whatever I'm going to say today, I just want to make that clear, that it's not just me sharing, it's me sharing stories that have been generational, that has got me to this point. So thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Jeremy, as I start the conversation, I would like to ask you two questions. The first one is where you come from and what's your professional background?
Yeah. So born in South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
in a small town called Mandini, which is like I would say a village. It's in the province of Natal, which is on the east coast.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Indian heritage. So we're going back 2 to 3 generations,
Mm-hmm.
where Indians left India and went, I guess, that diaspora of going all across the world, from the Caribbean to South Africa, Mauritius, you name it. There were lots of places that Indians were, I guess, sold the dream to go and work in these different places by colonial Commonwealth or British Empire.
Yes.
And my great-great-great-grandparents resided or moved to or immigrated to South Africa. So that's where my journey starts. And in terms of what I do for a living, look, I've had the privilege of going from a student to becoming an entrepreneur. And this year is actually our 20th year of celebrating Student Edge, as the business that we've built. So my journey has been one that has been enterprising, entrepreneurial, solving problems, getting paid for it. So I call it a privileged position where I can sit here today and share my story based on a journey that has been, like I said, originally from South Africa, came here in 1990 and started my schooling journey. And then after being a university student at Murdoch University, came up with an idea called Student Edge, and that's been the last 20 years of my life. But as you know, there's lots of other things I do as well. But primarily, my career is based in entrepreneurship, innovation, startup.
So let's go back
Yep.
to South Africa, where you were a little boy. So growing in South Africa, the time when you were there, your parents are helping you to understand the world around you. What was the main thing that got your attention that was a world outside of South Africa? Did you have this kind of knowledge about the world around you or outside of what you were, or you just saw yourself growing in South Africa and being there and doing your life there?
Well, I'll tell you what, if my family were here listening to this, the first thing they'd say about young Jeremy was I was always that kid that was pushing boundaries, the limits. And probably the biggest thing is taking risks. And I've got enough evidence in my journey to 9 years old in South Africa of doing certain things where I've, taken risks. I mean, physical risks as well. So, these stitches up in my head here is because I, opened up my forehead when I was around 6, 7 years old, riding my bike and riding it as fast as I could, and went straight into a rain tank in my grandparents' house. And that was my first foray. And I've got about 6 or 7 other instances like that where I was pushing the boundaries, doing things outside of the norm. And, I feel for my mum, because my mum, I'm the first eldest kid of the family. Here's your welcome to parenthood. But in total respect for my mum, in terms of, managing me, was just incredible. Because then I had 2 other siblings come after that, and a brother Craig and sister Lorette. And But my mum managed to guide me and gave me the support. And that's been integral all the way up until now. Like, I mean, I still have my mum go and talk about Student Edge, and my dad as well, talk about Student Edge. They're my biggest champions, biggest my believers. So they managed to just support me in this, you know, pushing boundaries mindset, pushing the limits, taking risks. So from till 9 years old, living in South Africa, for me, I was always that kid. And another thing my mum would tell you about is one of the things that I did very young was just started networking. Now, didn't know about networking, but, you know, when I was 5, 6 years old, I was the kid in the village that was, you know, connecting with the older ones, the younger ones, had a bunch of friends that were put together just in my local village. My mum would actually let me walk the streets because it was quite safe. She would let me walk the streets, and we'd actually have people from down the road or another street actually bring me back home some nights. They're like, oh, Jeremy's still here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to drop him back home. So mum were like, oh, yeah, is that where he went to? And I'd just be having chats with people and building my friendship circles and network circles from 6 years old. Another thing that my mum said I was really good at was speaking. So not just speaking as in, you know, I think every kid learns to speak, but I had this ability to be able to connect and communicate with people that were far beyond my age. So not just my peers. And I also had my first speaking gig when I was about 6 years old at the local school as well. Just doing it on my own. So that for me tells me that that's not something you learn along the way. That's just something that's within me. So your question, sorry, I'm taking a bit longer, but
okay.
your audience and your viewers to know is that, you know, a lot of things that you're gifted with is already within you. And I guess I'm just sharing that like I said, I'm saying my mum told me this was because I was already just doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She was saying I was just doing it. I wasn't practicing. I was just literally doing what I believed I was doing. So I always try and tell people, yeah, find out. Sometimes ask your mum, ask your parents, you know, what were you doing when you were 5 years old? Because the answer's there in terms of what your gifting is, what your talent is. And I asked, and my mum would say, yeah, I'd just be starting to communicate and connect with people from as young as she can remember. So now I'm 43 years old. So you can imagine from that age.
Refining the skills.
Refining it. And I've never been to a Toastmasters or a, coaching school, speaking school. I've done none of that.
You speak from the heart.
Sorry, I speak from the heart, and I just speak because of what is within me.
Okay. Yes. So let's go back then, and growing up then, having all these people that are older than you, that they have more knowledge than you, that you are like wanting to know more curious about what they have done with their lives. So at any point growing up, you thought of being entrepreneur or running a business, or was everything prepared for you to have a career as a job, being employed by someone? How this, you mentioned that going, talking, and having the conversation, networking, that is a very natural skills for an entrepreneur. But at any point you thought doing something else in your career as a job instead of entrepreneur, or thought entrepreneur would be something for you?
Yeah, that never happened until I was much later in life, the entrepreneurial bit. When I was growing up, there was nothing around entrepreneurship or business or anything like that. My dad, later on in his career, ended up having a business opportunity, but up until that point, there was nothing in front of me that was around entrepreneurship, business, nothing at all.
So you had the linear thinking of having a career as employed by someone.
Yeah. I mean, look, to be honest, and let's be frank, because a lot of people have this challenge and you don't know what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually normal.
Yes, quite normal.
Not knowing what to do is actually perfectly fine. If there's anybody listening or watching this, if you are in that position right now, do not panic. Do not stress. It just means you haven't discovered what you're supposed to be doing yet. You're in that phase, and you're never stuck in that phase for very long. But growing up, I did not know about entrepreneurship. I did not know about starting a business. Nothing like that. But what I will share is that sometimes we box ourselves into specific career titles or sectors or industries or roles. And I just want to just clear that for the moment. Let's take that off the table for the moment. And I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm growing up, what was around me, though, was the characteristics of entrepreneurs.
Right.
And this is what I encourage anyone to do, is that don't get so caught up with people's titles and roles and what they do, and I could be this and I could be that. More look at what is the characteristics of people around you that are showing those things that could lead to one of those jobs or titles or whatever. So in my instance around entrepreneurship, I actually was surrounded by entrepreneurship. And I'll tell you why. So my parents are evidence of having the characteristics of an entrepreneur. And I'll talk about my mum in general, generally speaking, in terms of what she did to get us to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
You see, she applied via snail mail back in, I think, 86 or whatever it was, off a pamphlet in a community centre or local library. And from there, got us to Australia. So when I look at that experience, I go, okay, she saw an opportunity. As an entrepreneur, you need to see opportunity.
That's right.
Number two, first one in her family to even think about moving overseas at that time, right? Very big. Big risk. So as an entrepreneur, you take risks.
All the time?
Yep. Number three, you need to be passionate about whatever you're going to be doing, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Your why needs to be strong. So my mum's why was very strong, and I'll tell you that's another story in itself, but my mum's why was very strong as to why to get us out of that country, which was apartheid South Africa. So everyone goes back to those years. This is now talking about, pre-1990.
Mm-hmm.
That's the South Africa I was growing up in. And why my mum's why was so strong, which you need as an entrepreneur, that characteristic and passion, is we went to the beach one day and I wanted to swim, the swimming pools at the beachfront one day. And I wanted to go into the pool, want to go swim. I was nagging. And she's got so frustrated because she was trying to work out how to tell the 6-year-old me, you can't swim here. And eventually she showed me. She said, look up at that sign. It says no blacks allowed. I think she got to that point, she was just like, got to tell this kid the truth. And my mum says at that point, she realized that I'm not bringing up my kids in this country where I can't take my 6-year-old boy just to a pool because of this rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that leads to the next characteristic of an entrepreneur, where you break the rules.
Oh, yeah. And
you
when
have to.
doing that?
You play by the rules, but you can go under it, over it, around it.
That's right.
Yeah. That's the next characteristic. So mum did that. So if you look at the things, so seeing opportunity, risk-taking, strong passion or why,
Yeah.
and going around the rules or over the rules or under it. You have to do that when you're an entrepreneur. So there's 4 that I've just listed. There are about 8 characteristics. There's 4 already, just that I was surrounded by and witnessing my mum and dad in my home. So I was surrounded by that. And that's why I'm telling you and others that I think if you focus on what's around you and the people that are encouraging and supporting you, what characters are they? What characteristics are they reflecting in their life that really you get it? It's just like it's infectious.
That's right.
And then when I'm getting to now flash forward to high school days, this is when I'm start thinking about business.
Mm-hmm. What made you?
Yeah, there's a gap.
Because now you have all these surroundings of ideas that you brought within you. And then what made you to look at the patterns that, hey, I can do something here?
Yep. But before we get to, so that's high school when I actually discover what business is all about and we're tinkering around different ideas and stuff. But, go back to my growing up days till I was 9 years old before I left Durban, South Africa. There were so many other people that had walked the path before, which is why I want to leave it on the record for this interview.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one is just going on their journey. The journey before is just as important.
Yes.
So living in apartheid South Africa, you think about my great-grandparents and grandparents going through that, carving the way for a Jeremy to then get springboarded into an opportunity to come to Australia and so forth. But if that didn't happen, who knows what would happen? But what I do know is that there were people who walked the path before me that made way. My grandparents, just my immediate people that I had specific influence from. My granddad, my grandma, on both sides of the family. Two different types of families in terms of walks of life and experiences, but both were an influence in me.
Okay.
To get me to this point.
Yes.
Sacrifices they made allowed my mum and dad to make choices like leaving South Africa to get to Australia. Now, I know that doesn't sound too dissimilar from what other people have done. But what I'm reinforcing is that no one gets to their story now without this chapter. And that's why I'm sharing it, because it's important to recognize the past, not live in it.
That recognize has been a history behind us.
But we need to acknowledge it and recognize it. So myself being 43 right now, I am riding on the back of all of that to be able to do things like Student Edge and share my story, which is wonderful that I can do that.
Yes.
But anyone that's on their journey right now, have a look back just for a moment in your journey, your past.
Yes. So, Jeremy, let me ask something here. When you were 6 years old, that you faced that situation, that your mom brought you the consciousness of, that's what we have here as a rule. To break this rule, you need to go away. Of course, this was, I'm not sure if it was discussed with your kids, but probably was something that your parents saw as an opportunity to give you and your brother and sister a different life. But coming from South Africa, where you had the apartheid and having all these social problems and differences, coming to a white country as a kid that now knows the reality of facing the differences, how was the transition for you and your family coming to Australia, leaving the side of black and white to come to Australia?
What a great question, Sama, because here's the irony in all of this. I come to Australia in 1990 and I experienced my first racism. So just let's just recap that for a second. Right up to 9 years old, living in a very racist apartheid South Africa. Life was wonderful for me. Wonderful. My parents gave us everything. Great memories. I get to Australia. I face my first bit of racism. The irony, right?
Yeah.
So I come to my primary school. I won't mention the name, but in Perth, and I'm one of two black kids in the entire school. And I get teased for being black, for being different. And it was so hurtful. That was my first experience. I just didn't know. It was the first time that I experienced someone that was so like, vile in their words and calling me this thing that I was like, what's going on here? I thought this was the great, because my parents sold it to me as like, the land of opportunity and it's going to be great. And, you can go to the pool there and, whatever was told to me was all, milk and honey. Get here, and here's my first bit of thing. It's the first bit of also character development, because I'm like, oh gosh, it was all hunky-dory back then in South Africa. Why am I experiencing this? This is so hurtful. I remember coming home year 5 to mum and going, this is what's happened. Mum was in disbelief, of course. because she'd also been sold the same dream, right? Come to
Wait.
Australia, blah, blah, blah. And here we are. And I won't mention the names that I was called, but it's still to today, you still have that memory. It gets even more ironic because the person that teased me and called me those names was actually an immigrant themselves.
As we see a lot about it.
So that still happens. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there's people watching and listening to this going, nothing's changed.
That's right.
This is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
So there's racism within racism.
Yes.
Which I know is common with the different classes and all that type of stuff. You can go down the rabbit hole with racism. But let's not focus on that. You asked the question. That was the first experience coming to Australia, was one of like, oh, I just got hit. Like, this is like, I'm hurt. It's not a good experience. But anyway, my mum encouraged me to deal with it. And I remember her
How did you do it? How did you do it?
Well, she just said, just push through. Like, just push through. You know, they're the problem, you're not, which is kind of the same advice I would give to my kid. Just keep pushing through. Yes, you are different, but go be different. But then she also empowered me because she knew that I was also that person that was going to do stuff on my own. She knew she could just tell me a little bit, but she kind of knew I was going to figure the rest out.
Yes.
But she just gave me enough encouragement to keep me going. But then, yeah, of course, I decided to just make up my own strategies now. So I was like, okay, tell you what, I'm going to partner up with this other black kid and we're going to support each other. So he was my first friend, Crispus McKinder, who we band together from year 5 to year 7 until first year high school. We banded together, supported each other, and became friends. And that was enough for me. And you always, and this is my point in making and sharing the story, is that you just need that one friend. You just need that one friend that gets you through. You don't need all this other things going on and this and that. Just find someone that's like you, that you can support each other to get you through. And all I did then when we get to high school, I was like, okay, now to find more of my peoples. So when I say peoples, all the immigrants. So Christmas and I, first year 8, big school, 2,000 kids. We found at least 12 other boys from South America, Philippines, Indonesia, Ireland, Burma. There was the 12. Now we all got together, all had similar stories. Now we're banded. Now the support crew is, tripled.
And stronger.
Stronger. Now we can go out and stand and, do things and people respect you for that. That's the other point of the story, is that, yes, you find that one friend, then you band together. Okay. That's where you really, and that's the start of what I guess you're doing, Seba, is that you're just doing this on another level. You're telling people, yeah, have that one person, but here's the support network you've got now of people that have walked the path before that you can band together, not playing victim, not playing, I got, bullied, or I got, teased, none of that. I never talk about those stories.
I know you don't. So,
number one, no one wants to hear it anyway. But number 2, it's more important how you react to it. And that's why I always say, okay, push through, move forward, get on with it.
That's right.
Yeah, well, so that's a long answer to your question.
But that's why I want to bring you here, because your story is very powerful. I know you don't tell everyone and use as, my flag. You use your actions. That's the most important thing, to help people through your experience. That's the most powerful thing. And I know also a story about your father that came here as high qualified newcomer, right? So someone who had experience in the field, but went through the same struggles of finding a job in a new land, for not knowing the system and the culture. So would you be able to share this story with us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anyone that's got immigrant parents that made that bold move to come to Australia or any other country, it's just another level of respect you have for your parents, because they go through stuff that you wouldn't know, number one. And a lot of my experiences, especially for my brother and my younger sister, we didn't know what was going on in our household because we just had this really nice family time and a home and a car, and all that was really good for us. But we didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. But as mum and dad would tell us, and dad, like I said, dad was on another level, and I'll talk about my mum a lot, but dad was on another level where before leaving South Africa, he, I believe, had a business opportunity that he could actually allow him to be a business owner. And in South Africa, if you get to that level, that's like, the pinnacle. And it was actually with a white engineering company, like owners. Like, he had that level of respect. So that's next level. Gives up that opportunity to come to Australia with just savings, to be unemployed for up to, I believe, a year. Just walking the streets trying to get a job. Because at that point in time, people may recall that 1990 was a recession in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And there were just no jobs going. There were no jobs going. But anyway, so just in a little bit that I need to recognize as well is in that journey, we also had some church friends, the Verban family. Shout out to Bernie and Rhoda Verban, because they were integral to us having that soft landing in Australia. Strangers we'd never met before. And that's why we're thankful to people that are of faith. So, no secret, I'm a Christian and of the Christian faith. But we'd never met these people before, and they come in and they open up their doors to their own home, personal home. And then also this entrepreneur, Bernie, had other properties, and he gave us one of his properties, I believe up to 6 months or whatever it is, just to find our own one. Mm-hmm. But they came in and gave us that soft landing, and we wouldn't be here without that family. And all he said to my parents was, because we want to return the favor, he just said, just pass it on. And mum and dad have been doing that ever since with their own home. And that's another story in itself. But anyway, faith plays a big part in everyone's journey. And the people listening or watching this that are in that point in life where they're like, oh yeah, faith, this, or I'm part of this faith, whatever it is. All I say to you is really anchor yourself into your faith. Because mum and dad did that, and so did this family at that point in time, and were able to connect strangers, just connect on faith. And they allowed us to have this relationship, not by anything else. They weren't networking. They weren't doing any of that. They never seen each other. Yet faith brought them together, both anchored in faith, able to have that relationship, open up doors, give us homes, cars. Nothing can put a price on that. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sharing that because that's an acknowledgement and recognition of this family which did this for us. So yeah, so we get the soft landing, and then dad's unemployed now. You go from having a business opportunity, owning your own business, to now nothing.
Jobless.
To condense this a little bit, condense the story a little bit. Long story short, dad, basically was dropping off his resume everywhere, knocked on one particular door of an engineering company, who was started by an immigrant and handed it over to his sons over time. His sons are running this company. And one of the things he shared with his sons was, hey, there's ever an immigrant that knocks on this door looking for work, find them a job. And at that point in time, when dad did this, the sons actually said, oh, look, we don't have any work. We can't offer you any work. There's no jobs. But to honor my father and this thing, we'll get you to come in and, do trade assistant work, sweeping floors. That's how my dad started. From the very bottom, we call him a TA or a trade assistant. Dad was doing that. And eventually they saw what dad was really good at. And when things started turning around in the economy, dad got his job at this engineering company and ended up getting a job there for the next, I think, 2 to 3 years. That was critical because then we were able to buy our first family home. And it was just like, whoa, this is just incredible.
So, and your father is an engineer too?
Yeah, fitted and turner by trade. But yeah, now I'd been doing the best part of the last 30, 40 years, in the mining, oil and gas field. And now, we have this joke with Dad where every time he decides to retire or leave a job, he's never out of a job because there's always a new one waiting for him.
That's a blessing.
It's incredible. But that's been my dad's journey, is that he's never short of a job offer opportunity. Never. In the entire time I've known my dad, he's always had something to go on to. That's a reflection of him and his talent and his gifting. But coming back to your question, it was an immigrant helping another immigrant. And that's what I'd love to charge to your listeners and people that I want to help immigrants, is that we need to do more in that space. I think we talk about helping immigrants. I think we talk about helping. But let's put some actual tangible action. Like this gentleman had an action, which is you give them some work. That's a pretty bold move.
Yes. Commitment, right?
Which immigrant business owner listening to this can make a bold move today to help an immigrant?
Yeah.
We all think it, we all speak it, but who's got it as their charter of operations of business?
Mm-hmm.
If you do, tell me, because I'd love to connect with you and share, because there's immigrants right now that are walking the streets, dropping off resumes, trying to get work. Right now, as we're talking, there's someone that's got that Jeremy Chetty story right now.
It is. And I tell you, it's an endemic problem that have been facing forever. Everyone talks about, but no one takes action to solve it. And another level of conversation that we can do, I'm very aware of the time, and I want you to talk about the movement between being a student, going to university, and thinking about what I do with this knowledge. So when you gave birth to Student Edge with your brother and your friends, tell us more about, and what is your mission that you have with Student Edge?
Yep. So the crux of starting Student Edge, the light bulb moment, was actually by my late co-founder, Simon Loader, who came to me with this idea and context. But up until that point, we're always tinkering around with different ideas. Some that worked, some that didn't work, some that failed miserably. Anyway, he came to this with this idea of creating a book called Options, and it was based on his younger brother Stephen's journey of the stress of choosing a career and a job.
Mm-hmm.
So Simon says, hey, why don't we create a book called Options? And this whole book just has options you give to a high schooler, and it makes their decision-making process easier. I was like, wow, why hasn't anyone thought of that before? I mean, they're job guides and stuff, but actual options, go for gap year, go on an apprentice, go work full-time, go into the Defence Force, go to university, go to TAFE. Like, the options are just, there's more than one. So this is what this book was going to do, called Options. So I said, hey, Simon, look, tell you what, this is 2003, mate. There's this thing called Google. You don't need to create a book. Just put it online and students can use it as a resource. And that was the premise of Student Edge. So we called it Student Oasis back then, but I won't bore you with that. But essentially we took that, what Simon had, and translated it into a one-stop shop that would help students to get through student life, help them make the best career and choice decisions. That was the premise. It was a problem we wanted to solve for our younger brothers and sisters, something we want to solve for ourselves because we didn't know what we want to do still. Even going through university, sometimes you earn the wrong degree. Sometimes you're just being given bad career advice.
Yes.
So let's change that all up. Let's create a one-stop shop so we can educate and help and support young people that are going through this stressful time in their lives to make a decision on what I want to do for the rest of my life. Student Ed is there to support you. That was the premise, but now we realize after speaking to students, hey, you can't just start a website and a business just doing career stuff. You got to make it fun. And that's how we had these other things called student discounts and, the job opportunities and things all came on at the start to make this thing fun.
Mm-hmm.
Discounts is how they get in. The careers and information stuff is how they stay on. So basically, you've created a free membership to help students get through student life around those three areas of saving money, we call it, helping you get employed, and helping you with your career and life decisions. That's the Student Edge membership. That's what we try and tell, well, that's how I pitch it to people right now. We've got 1.3 million members as part of Student Edge now. It's our 20th year we're celebrating. The mission, thank you. The mission is so simple, Sema. How do we help as many young people and support them through student life with this free membership that gives them the edge? That's the mission. Always be free as long as the founders are alive and kicking. Always be free. We make our money through the sponsors and the advertisers and so forth. But this is the membership that's going to help you get you through. That's the mission. And then, of course, how do you scale it globally? So that's what we're in the process of doing now.
Yeah, because you are growing a lot and you have helped so many people.
Students in India have the same problems. Students in South Africa have the same problems. What I've realized that the student life
is the same.
Wherever you are in the world is the same.
It's a point in life that you have all the pressure. What do you want to do with your life, right? And
as a
teenager, you're like, what? Life is just fun right now, but sometimes it's not much fun. But it's a pressure that we all have in life when people want us to be someone.
Yep. That's why I made that point at the start about let's not get focused on the titles, the roles, the courses, the universities. Let's not make choices by that.
That's right.
Let's make choices by what character are we? Who are we surrounded by? What gifting have we got? You start with there, and then you start realizing, oh gosh, okay, I don't have to find who I am externally. I've already got what I've got internally. I just need to discover it. That's the beauty. That's the beauty. You don't need to go external to figure out what you're supposed to do in life.
And that's why I like working with newcomers. For me, it's normally when they come to me, I say to them, and they get very, what do you mean about this? When I tell them, you want not your job title, you want more than that.
You want more than that.
Come looking for that job that you save your life. That job can break you in the new country if you don't know the system, if you don't know the culture. And you may it's a big decision moving to a new country, and you may not want to do what you're supposed to do before in the new country. So
100%. And you know what the best bit is, Sema? Here's the kicker. Here's the promise.
Yes.
Here's the promise, not my promise to your listeners and whoever's on this journey. You can never get fired from your gift.
That's right.
That is real. That is general. You can never get fired from your gift. Focus on that. Money will be attracted to you. You master it. You will always be in the positive, in the black and not in the red in your bank account. And I'm saying that because I've lived it.
We both have lived it, right?
Exactly. So you're doing it now, and that's why you've been on this journey. That's why I'm so glad you're doing this channel, is you're unearthing all these stories, not just mine, but you're creating this whole value set of people and experiences and stories, and now you're giving it to the world. That's your gifting. That's your ability to be able to unlock that from people. Whether you're sitting one-on-one with myself or you're sitting with a group of people, you have that knack. That knack is the gifting that allows you to do it. And I can say that because I've known you for years. And I've seen what you do. So, and now you're getting to this point where I believe you're on this cusp of what you're doing with your shows and your podcast and blah, blah, blah. You're just going to be unleashed.
Yes,
you have this other experience where you've been through the employment part and journey, and you've shared all that stuff with me. Now you're passing on to people that are going to go through similar things and go, hey, if I was you, I wouldn't do that. Or if I was you, look, think about that twice. I've been through it myself. And, I won't mention the program's name, but, this program was instrumental for you and what you did for migrants. And immigrants, sorry. So I think going through that has got you to this point. So Do you know what I mean? Like there's some experiences that you go through, it just gives you that fire in the belly to go, nah, I'm doing my own thing.
That's right. That's right. For me, was essential the journey to be able to really validate the idea and be here. And you have been part of the support, right? So when I came to you and I open up to you, say, hey, this is what I have, this is the dream that I have. But for some reason, I had to go through a little bit more to taste other waters and come back and say, hey, that's it. It's enough.
And people need to know that. You need to go through the ringer. You need to go through those tough experiences. You need to appreciate moments like this now.
That's right.
Just flying now.
Yeah. So I'm very conscious about the time that you have to go.
Next meeting, yeah.
And I thank you very much for
you.
here, Jeremy. You know, you are very a VIP in my life. You know, the blessings that we have chatting and like having the exchange of ideas, and you have inspired me. And many moments in my life when I was at a crossroad, you gave me the toughest questions that I had to figure out what's the next step. So and that's normally what I used to do. I do it with others, and you did with me. Say, take the taste of things in here. And I thank you very much for your time, for your wisdom, and really for your kindness of sharing everything that you know with others, and with very genuine emotion.
Thank you, and all the best with the channel and the show and the podcast and the program as well that you're doing now with your one-on-ones. If there's anyone that spot now, sign up to Sema's program. Honestly, I'm not just saying it, because you're going to get this one-on-one experience with her, where she'll show you and be that guiding light for you. So yeah, definitely get involved and sign up. It'll be worth it all. It'll be worth paying it all. Trust me.
That's right. It's not about your resume. It's about you understanding what you write on your resume about you. Your time. Thank you very much for you watching this episode. Is a very special episode for me in my life in Australia, having Jeremy as a supporter, as a friend. So thank you very much, Jeremy, for the time, and for you. Subscribe to the channel and see you next. Bye-bye.